welcome to Ship of the Week. The vessel we'll look at today is the passenger steamship SS Dakota. The 19th century saw the territorial extent of the United States grow enormously, and amid countless fundamental impacts on Americans as well as the people who already inhabited the lands they claimed, one of the more immediate results of this growth was the increased importance of the railroads to connect far-flung corners of the continent. The Great Northern Railway, first incorporated under that name in 1889 by James Hill, eventually operated a network spanning the West, from Chicago to Seattle. Like many railroads, the natural step for the company upon reaching the sea was to cross it, and so arrangements were made to establish the Great Northern Shipping Company. The first vessels in Hill's fleet were purchased, many continuing to operate under their previous management, but Great Northern wanted a grander presence on the Pacific and ordered from Groton, Connecticut's Eastern Shipbuilding Company 2 large sisters for service to Japanese and Chinese ports. SS Dakota was launched in 1904 in the presence of dignitaries from both U.S. states whose names she bore, a little under a year after her elder sister, SS Minnesota, entered the water. The pair, for a time, held the title of the largest ships built in the United States, although they were to be eclipsed within a few years. The 20,700-ton Dakota was 622 feet long, and her twin triple-expansion engines were capable of getting her over 17 knots for sustained passages. She could carry nearly 2,600 people in 3 classes, the vast majority in steerage, but most of her income was generated by her cargo. Those traveling in first class, however, had an array of well-appointed public rooms to choose from. Her delivery voyage to Seattle, completed by the 27th of June, 1905, Dakota's career was to be a whirlwind. An attempt at her maiden westbound crossing a month later ended with her limping back to Seattle with a failure in the starboard half of her power plant. And she didn't complete her first voyage along her intended route until September. But her complement on that crossing included the Japanese contingent sailing home after signing the papers to end the Russo-Japanese War mediated by the United States. Her return trip was thankfully not impeded by a minor fire that occurred aboard while she was in Japan. The rest of 1905 and 1906 saw Dakota operate essentially without incident. It was not to last. On the 3rd of March, 1907, under Captain Emil Frank, Dakota was racing the remaining daylight to Yokohama and cutting dangerously close to the Japanese coast, when she slammed at nearly full speed into a submerged reef shelf, likely tearing out a significant portion of her hull. The ship rapidly settled by the head, with this image taken about an hour after she grounded. She was able to evacuate her passengers and crew, and the proximity to the shore that had doomed the ship served to save her people. The majority of Dakota's passengers and crew continued on to Yokohama aboard SS Hakuai Maru. Dakota was partially looted overnight, and while some of her fittings and cargo were eventually salvaged, the ship broke up in a storm a few weeks later and became a total loss. The captain was found at fault for his careless navigational practices.